The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Today I'm going to talk about insistence, or rather the mind of non-insistence. When we do our offering of merit, we try not to insist on anything, some particular outcome. Sometimes it's hard. I'd really, really like so-and-so to get better, and that's okay, but we're not sort of insisting on something. What we're trying to do is just make the offering and just wish them the best, whoever it may be. Just wishing for the best, not some particular thing that we think they need. When we're insisting on something, we want an outcome, and we're pushing to get it in some way. I'm insisting, We want our views to prevail. We want to persuade everybody that what we are thinking, what we have in mind is the best thing. We want other people to think the way we do. All the different ways of insisting. And we all know what it's like when somebody else is insisting. You can sometimes just feel sort of beaten into a corner, into submission. Okay, whatever you want, I just want a quiet life. And it doesn't always feel good, that you sort of think, wait a minute, how did I get over here? That wasn't what I had in mind at all, But when we're insisting, we don't always realize we're doing it because it seems so right, We think we're being reasonable, just simply telling people what we clearly see as best. And it's the other person who's failing to see things the way we see them. They're somehow not getting it. It's hard to recognize our judgmental and discriminating mind for what it is. I like this, I don't like that. I want this, I don't want that. Because that's really what it comes down to. Anytime we're insisting, we're kind of resisting something else and we're missing something. We may be aware that we have a bit of a tendency to insist on our views. The saying, I'd rather be right than be happy. And there's a sort of wry humor there, but actually, when you think about it, it's a bit sobering. Would I really rather be right than be happy, Sometimes we're clinging onto our view so tightly that we make everybody unhappy. There's disharmony, there's argument, and nobody's happy. And that's not really what we truly want in our heart. We'd really much rather have, actually, peace. Even if it's peace on my terms, we'd like to have some kind of harmony, really. Sometimes we're so determined to prove our point that we're almost glad when the bad thing we predicted happens. I knew it would turn out this way, I knew it wouldn't work out, and there it is, it hasn't worked. It's kind of beastly, really, when you think about it, but it's awfully tempting to have a little slight vindicated mind, when the awful thing that we predicted has happened. We said, well, I told you so, But actually, when you think about it really, we'd rather not have that. We'd rather have people happy, Even if we were wrong, it would be... Anyway. So you can see that it all leads to suffering, all these kinds of... any kind of insistence. It's just another form of self, holding on to what I want. Because any time we're insisting on anything, there's a self with an agenda. But when there's a principle at stake, it gets murkier, To insist on something means we're taking a stand on something. And sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes it's not such a good thing. Sometimes you have to take a stand on something, just for, Many of us remember when we first found Buddhism. I was a pain to all my relatives and friends, Or we first began to meditate, or we first became a vegetarian, or we first took the precepts. We want everybody else to be converted to the same thing. Meditating every day. I've got to meditate these certain times every day. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I don't care what else is going on. I'm going to do this. I just annoyed everybody. It wasn't good. And I had to sort of climb down. Or our dear aunt cooks us a special thing with meat, to welcome us. Do we say, I don't eat meat? Sorry, Aunt Maisie, I'll just eat potatoes. Well, we might have to do that, but do we want to do it kindly, not to insist on some righteous view? What is best, If we have to feel we really have to refuse it, to do so kindly and gently, maybe it's better to eat it. It's not deadly, and we might be wasting this poor beast's life because we've refused this dish and hurt our Aunt Maisie's feelings. But then if we never tell her, she's going to keep cooking meat every time we come and visit, so what's best to do? We just have to not insist, but just sit still. What's really kindest and best here? There's not a perfect solution. And it's like that with lots of things. If we're insisting on our perfect view or our perfect principle, we can kind of trample all over other people in a less than kind way, not meaning to do that at all. But especially, as I said, the joy of the new convert can be, royal pain. But it's a good intention. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this good thing. Trying to not eat meat. Trying to keep to the precepts. Trying to meditate every day. It's really good. But we don't want to inflict it on everybody else in a kind of insisting way. It's not always clear what's best to do, but the insistence is what makes it harder. We need to be clear about our motives. Why am I insisting on this? Am I actually doing what's best? Or am I just kind of being stuck with this self? I am going to do this. I know this is right. This is what I'm going to do. At the cost of kindness and tactfulness to another person. Sometimes we might have to say, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. I will not do that. But we need to know what we're doing and why. Why am I doing this? And to do it as kindly and wisely as we can, not get all upset and righteous. It's sometimes hard to know what is really good here. Am I just getting stuck with the principle? Or actually a self-disguise as a principle, Or this actually really the best thing to do? The other day I was talking to somebody about euthanizing animals. It's a very delicate, difficult situation. You don't always know what's best. If you've got a really sick beast in a lot of pain, what's best to do? Sometimes the vets really want you to euthanize them. They kind of insist. Sometimes we may be insisting, saying, no, Buddhists don't euthanize animals. But sometimes it's the best thing to do. It's the kindest thing sometimes. And if we're not stuck with an ideal and insisting on it, it's easier to see what's really best here, both for the beast, for the person taking care of the beast, for everybody, and not insisting or polarizing, getting all upset or righteous, or blaming anybody else for what they may decide to do or not do. It's a perfect example of a delicate situation when you can't make just a hard and fast rule about it. You just have to accept what people decide and not insist in your view or try to push them because it's hard enough. Insistence is noisy. It's noisy inside, it's noisy outside. We have our little insistent mind saying, that's not right, that's not what I think is right. And we have our verbal insistence, And this noisy insistence prevents us from being still and open to the bigger picture, which is wider than what I see. Because any time we're insisting on something, even a seemingly good thing, we're blinding ourselves to other possibilities. We're limiting our view. We're not listening to other people, generally. We're insisting on our own thing. And in just about any situation, if we knew all that was involved, all the various factors, the feelings of people concerned, the variables, what could happen, if we knew all of it, we couldn't insist, because it just makes everything much less black and white. There's always another way to look at things. Even if you don't agree with that way, if we can at least see other points of view and not just insist on our own, we can be much softer and more harmonious. We can appreciate another point of view, respect another person who has a completely different opinion from ourselves. Being willing to see things another way, just look through another person's eyes. Willingness to change, not to hold fast to our view, Often my views are what I am, My opinions are what I feel I am. I am my views. Music. In music, singing in harmony. Lovely example of not insisting. You have to listen to the others. If you're just singing off by yourself, you're not harmonizing, you're not blending. If you're insisting on doing it a certain way, you lose the harmony. And if somebody's doing that, you feel this person kind of pushing, they're trying to make it slower or quicker or something. However, sometimes somebody who's leading the singing needs to do that. They need to push us a little bit because they're dragging, or they need to slow us down a bit, or get us back on key. They have to kind of push it a bit. But the way of doing that, there's not an insistence there. They're doing it listening to people, and they're not doing it with insistence. You preserve the harmony. You're not tearing the fabric, as it were. This person's singing something different from everybody else because it's the right thing. But done gently and without just doing their own thing while listening to others, then harmony is preserved and it all works. It's a lovely example of working in harmony, just singing together, because we have to listen to each other, and then we get something beautiful. If no one's listening to anybody else, you get discord. No matter how beautifully people may sing, it's not good. But if we're listening to each other, we have harmony. And it's the same in human relations. Hang on. At a meeting, if someone's insisting on their view, especially if they're angry, righteously angry, then of course there's no harmony, it's just unpleasant. And if they don't want to listen to anyone else's view, it's worse, just think, oh. However, sometimes one needs to take a stand on something, You just feel this is not right to go along with. I have to say, I'm sorry, I cannot agree to this. But how do you do that? If you're just insisting and resisting and not listening, then you get the disharmony and the discord. But if you can listen to the other people and actually respect their view, not just jump down their throat, but listen to them and respect their view, then you can have harmony. Even if you can't agree with something, you can disagree in a gentle and respectful way. It's very different from saying, I'm right and that's it, It's the way we do it that can create problems or smooth out problems, or maybe do something that people hadn't thought of. I find myself thinking, 12 Angry Men, 12 Just Men? It was the thing about, old film about the jurors. What's it called? You know what I mean. 12 Angry Men, thank you. And they got this court case, and one of them, they all want the person, they think the person's guilty, let's get it done, let's go home. One person says, I don't think so. And over time, it persuades all the others to actually release the person who was not, in fact, guilty, if I remember rightly. But this is an example of taking a stand on something you believe to be actually right. You cannot go along with the thing. And it's not easy to do. And how do you do that? Do you do it kindly, gently, with patience? Or do you get all upset and yell at everybody until they submit? The way we do it makes a lot of difference, how we do that. And there's the other end of it, when some of us just want a quiet life. There's whatever, anything for peace, anything for harmony. I just want a quiet life, I don't want to be confrontative, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to deal with it, I just want to creep away. And that isn't right either, because sometimes you have to stand up for something. Sometimes you have to say something. And how do you do it? You know. Being willing to listen to other people. Be willing to find we're wrong and change. I've often found, I may not be alone here, that I have some strong view about something. With this thing, I know this is the correct view. I know this is, And I find that I actually know nothing about it. Compared with other people, I think I have a reasonable view. I'm a reasonably well-informed, I think somewhat a reasonably intelligent person. And I'm actually not informed at all. And there's all kinds of things about the matter I knew nothing about. And I think, it's quite humbling, very salutary, to find that actually I didn't know that much about the matter. If I just listen a little, it makes a lot of difference. I learn all kinds of things. Speaking of learning about leading a community, you can't actually insist on anything. You can't do it the way you want to do it. You have to have everybody on board with things. It doesn't work to say, okay, my rules, my way. Nobody's going to like that. Nobody's going to be happy, including oneself. You need to include everybody, especially when they're bigger matters. Include everybody and have everybody more or less together. It really helps. That's harmonious, and it's much better than just trying to think, I know what's best. You have to listen to people. And you need to do things, make decisions, take the consequences. But it's the mind of insistence that creates problems. The mind that says, we can do this, I'm determined in this. Thinking one is right and not taking refuge in other people is the other thing. Listening to other people, taking refuge, listening to others. Not just listening to other people, listening to one's own heart. That's also another aspect of non-insistence. Taking refuge in the Sangha, also refuge in the Dharma, and refuge in the Buddha nature. Listening to that, not insisting on one's own view. When we meditate, we are practicing non-insistence. Simply sitting as still as we best can. It's okay. Doing our best to accept everything that arises. Whether it's pain in the back or total distraction or misery or whatever it might be, all bliss and peace. Letting it all come up, letting it all be there, and letting it all go. Not insisting or resisting, but just letting it all come through. The perfect practice of non-insistence. We don't want to insist on some state of mind, some perfect stillness, some ideal of, perfect sitting. I've got to sit like this and I mustn't let thoughts come through and I'm going to be perfectly concentrated. It's misery. You just sort of, it's like this. You have to relax a little and let it come through. Otherwise, you're trying to force something, you're trying to get something, attain something. And that doesn't work very well. You're just making things hard. We don't need to do that. Just to make our best effort, our honest best effort as we sit in meditation with an open mind and an open heart and making our best effort. It's a dynamic thing. It's not passive. Relinquishing judgment. Just gently coming back. Not judging, my meditation's terrible. I'm so sleepy. This is just awful, But just, okay, here we go. Just come back, or whatever it might be. If you have this states of mind constantly arising, we think, not again, not again. Yes, here it is again. Again, and again. Just let it come up, let it be there, let it pass through. Not insistence, not resistance, just letting it come through. With whatever it brings us, coming back to this present moment, not insisting on something else. I want something else, Because the mind of non-insistence, of course, is the mind of all acceptance. It can embrace everything. As I said, the real truth does not insist upon truth. The real truth of being doesn't insist on itself. It doesn't insist on any way of thinking or of looking at it. It's just there. And any time we're insisting upon anything, whether with other people or whether with ourselves, or we're forcing something or wanting something, then we're missing something. We're missing the bigger picture. We're trying to live up to some ideal. Sometimes we find we can't do it. I'm going to meditate every morning, no matter what. Then we're sick. And we have to be able to not insist on what we thought was great and now we find we really can't do it. Because sometimes we just obstruct ourselves, and we have to be able to change, to be soft and flexible, and not insist on some perfect thing or some ideal way of living our life, or however it might be. Because it's the insistence that creates hardness and inflexibility. But if we're soft and flexible, we can embrace everything, all our negative states of mind, our mistakes, our difficulties, the problems we've had, the suffering we've had, all the things that we have encountered, all our faults. We can accept all of them and work with them. We're not trying to insist on some perfect ideal. Compassion doesn't insist. Kanzeon doesn't insist. She's not dumping her water on you, whether you want it or not. Maybe she is, I don't know. But it's not like a sort of ton of icy rocks. It's not an insisting thing, it's a gentle thing. Buddha nature doesn't insist. Reverend Master, I thought of this invocation came up this morning. The unborn and unchanging is there for all to know, and waits forever whilst beings come and go. So simple and so profound. It's there for all to know, and it waits forever. It doesn't bang us on the head. Occasionally it does, but usually not. And it's up to us to recognize that it's there, and when it does bang us on the head, to realize that's what it is, It does not insist. It waits quietly whilst beings come and go. We come and go, come and go, come and go. Buddha nature waits. It's there, the unborn and unchanging. And when we stop insisting in our own way or our own view or what we want, and we just listen to that, then we can hear it and live in harmony with it. We're not drowning it out with our own clamor of insistence. To sit still, doing nothing. That's another aspect of our non-insisting meditation practice. We're not doing something in a way, it's a not doing, and yet a dynamic not doing. We're doing something and yet not doing something. We're not trying to fill up the quiet with our clamorous thoughts, or with varying degrees of success in this, but that's what we're trying to do. When we're quiet enough to listen to that unborn and unchanging, that waits and waits, then we can hear it and live in harmony with it. It's a shift in focus from me and what I want or what I think to the bigger picture, the great matter for which we train. And that is why we try to relinquish our insistence, to relinquish our view, to relinquish what we want, and just back up a little, sit still a little, listen a little, and hear it. Thank you.